To the Pure Energy Dogcast, where we're passionate about helping you become a better leader with your dog, in your business, and in your faith. Let's dive in. So today we are so excited, you guys. I can barely, I'm trying not to flail. I'm so excited. We have an amazing guest, somebody who I consider a dear friend and a mentor. And I've had the privilege of meeting her and working with her in the past. And I'm just so excited for you guys to get to hear from her today. We have an interview with Miss Bethany from Walking Dog Training. She's in Florida. And I can't wait to get started. So welcome, Bethany. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for dealing with all of our tech issues and getting on here. We did it. We got here.
We're learning.
Yes, this is all new. This is all new, but we're so happy to have you on. So I did get to work with Bethany at her seminar with Kate from K9 Dog Training. When was that? Last August?
Yeah, last August. That's
it was
crazy.
warm in Wisconsin. Yeah, that's a year ago. That's nuts. That is
so crazy to me.
That does not feel like a year ago.
Time flies.
No. That is crazy. Oh. Are you guys still doing that seminar? You're doing another one, right?
Yes, our next one we're going to do in February here again in Orlando.
Yay, that's so amazing.
Yeah.
So she does, on top of many things, and we will cover a lot of them here today, but she does have a kind of like training seminar that I got to go to, and it was absolutely amazing. I got to go to the first one, which was super fun because we were all just kind of like, let's see how this goes, but it was amazing. I love, especially nowadays, I feel like we have a strong community of women dog trainers, and we're all just like coming together and connecting. And I remember when I first started in the industry about like 8 to 10 years ago, it wasn't really that. I feel like there was a lot of men, and not that that's bad at all, but I was a little bit like, who do I talk to? Like, who do I sit with at the table?
Yes.
You know? Like, where do I fit in? And now it's just like, I don't know, maybe that's kind of social media too, like bringing us all together over the years. But I don't know. I mean, even the women that I met with you at that seminar, like I still talk to them, and I probably never would have met them if it wasn't for you guys. So that's amazing.
Are you guys booked out for the seminar?
Well, we haven't started. We kind of have like a waiting list.
Nice.
Okay.
So we're going to start talking about it when we get closer to it. And then, just say whoever wants to
let us know, and we can share the link.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you so much.
Because anybody who does go to that, it's amazing. So I just want to get started. Tell everybody just a little bit about you, a little bit of your background. Like, how did you get started in dog training?
So I was a pet sitter dog walker and did that for about 4 years, and then got our third dog, Theo. And he completely threw me for a loop. I don't want to say crazy, but lots of issues I wasn't familiar with, and behavioral issues like biting us. And he was really young. So I remember I was crying on the floor thinking we made a huge decision, and we almost, a huge mistake. And we almost brought him back to the rescue that we got him from. And I was like, just let me, like pleading with my husband, just let me figure it out, try to figure out what I could do. I have time during the day. And I started looking up training stuff. So started looking up trainers online, found some trainers on YouTube, stumbled upon balance training, and started implementing the things that I found with him. And it almost immediately made a huge difference. Now, none of this is a quick fix at all, but for me, it was life-changing. It kept him in our home. And I started thinking, I already am around dogs, and how can I help other owners? Because I just didn't know about this stuff. It's like so many owners, you get a dog who you didn't anticipate on getting, and all the challenges that come with some dogs. And that's not what you think dog ownership looks like. So, So I started asking owners that I would walk their dogs, and a lot of dogs pulled me, some were reactive. And I started asking, hey, can I work with your dog? Can I introduce a prong collar? Some said no, some said yes, and started sharing on Instagram and Facebook, and just started getting people saying, hey, I need help with my dog. Can you help me? Like people from high school or my parents' friends' children. And it just kind of started that way.
Yeah.
And I went to a seminar. They don't do it anymore, but it was similar to the trainer in you. And it's funny what you were talking about in the beginning, where there were a lot of male trainers. Again, we love men, but
we do. We love them.
But I found that I couldn't find trainers that I could really relate to.
Yeah.
And so during that seminar, I just started feeling like I want to, it's such a weird feeling. I don't even know how to explain it, but I felt like I had a bigger purpose than being a dog walker, and that I could help more people just from sharing more and trying to become that person that other people could look up to that were similar to me. And then I just started sharing more, was getting dog after dog. And then I stumbled into the creative side of what I do and creating content, and just completely fell in love. And that's when my job kind of took a turn to look a little bit different than what you think dog trainer, the title, looks like.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's kind of similar to how we started, as far as just like the base of the story. Like, we were in the shelter and we were Googling a lot of training videos, and, but there's so much out there. So it was like, this video said to do this and this one said not to do that. And like, what do we do? And we were just kind of trying to figure it all out, and it was confusing. And again, it was like, who do you reach out to? How do you even reach out to people 10 years ago? And it looked a lot different. But absolutely. And you kind of nailed what I want to really pick your brain about today, which is your creative process and just the creative side of your business, because obviously you're an amazing dog trainer. I love all the videos. I love everything you do.
Thank you.
Our techniques are really similar. And I'm just like, I love how you teach and explain it, but really how you captivate moments and training concepts and ideas and put it into a picture and make it not only beautiful, but make it make sense. And you have this magic of relating to the clients, to dog owners in general. And there's like this vulnerability to you that I'm just like, and I think we've had talked about in the seminar, I was like, man, like, how does she do this? Like, how does she, to me, make it look so simple to relate to these other owners? And like, you really meet them where they're at in the process, and you're also like the biggest cheerleader, but then you're also saying, hey, sometimes it stinks and it's hard. And I feel like, at least from my end and everybody that I'm following, I feel like you really started this trend of, hey, it's okay to be like, my dog stinks today. This is hard. This is not fun. You know what I mean? I feel like you really meet people where they're at and get into like that middle with them. So if you just kind of want to talk a little bit about, like, we'll start with the creative process. Like, how did you stumble upon making graphics? Like, how did this start?
So I love following anything other than dog training on social media.
Yeah.
So for me, I follow a lot of like therapists, foodie things, eat this, not that, even though it's all very individual, as we know. But I loved seeing, I felt like this was missing in the dog training world, where the graphics, like my very first graphic that did well, like I did 3 or 4 first, and then the one that did well, where I think I got 500 likes. And to me, I was usually getting like 30 likes, which it's not all about likes, but you can notice it when it happens. And it was, and so it was how to say no. And it was like 5 different things on one graphic. And I was like, oh, I think I'm onto something with shareable content. So helping an owner feel seen and heard, which I think is so important in the process of working with owners. So many of them feel like they're the only ones going through it. So if I can create something for them to be like, oh, this is me, and like share it in their stories, and hopefully Aunt Ida sees it and they get it, or maybe get it a little bit more than before. I think and I'm very open about this. I don't love the dog training side of things. I think I love the process. I love taking pictures, which I could talk to you for hours about photography. You know this. I love sharing the process, but I really enjoy working with owners and creating stuff that helps them get it or break things down. And I think I just started seeing that people were sharing the shareable posts that I was making. And then it just became like my outlet, where it was kind of like growing up, I would go door to door selling rocks that I painted, like so flat cute. Rocks.
You've been an entrepreneur for a long time.
Yes. I want a rock. I want a Bethany rock. Let's bring it back.
I have one. I have one. And for the longest time, like through middle school, anywhere I went, if there was like flat rocks, I was like, oh my gosh, that'd be so great to paint. So it was like very exciting for me. So now instead of painting rocks, I create these little like things.
That's so cute.
I think I've always had that in me. And then it became where I started carving out time intentionally every single day to do it because it was really fun for me. And I was like, oh my gosh, even though I don't love the dog training side of things, because it's just very monotonous. It's a lot of the same stuff and it can be said over and over and over. This was kind of my way to stand out in a way or just do things differently. And yeah, I just fell in love with it. I started creating our training guides and my whole business changed. My husband was able to quit his job. He has his own job now, but yeah, it's just transformed everything I do.
Absolutely.
I think it's wild that it took so long for more females to get into dog training.
Yes.
You guys have such intuition and empathy that we lack as males, and you guys can really pick things up and then be able to communicate clearly to an owner. I mean, that's the whole game with dog training, is being able to teach the person. Yeah. And it's wild that it took so long because you guys are way better at it than we are.
Well, thank you. Yeah. Sweet. Well, and I think because I used to struggle with an eating disorder. I've struggled with infertility. And so I feel like everything is connected. So the shame I felt in not being able to conceive a baby naturally, I can relate to an owner who feels a lot of shame for walking their reactive dog and feeling like they're the only one. It's all very connected, I think. And so I think that has been, I mean, I'll never forget. So the seminar I went to, that they don't do anymore, I remember looking in the room and it was all females. And I just thought, okay, it's 2 males leading this, which is great. It was a really awesome experience and nothing against that. But I feel like we all could like kind of get each other a little bit more. Like, why is this kind of missing? And I think the part that I enjoyed the most was some people think it's being vulnerable. To me, telling a story about how I struggled with an eating disorder is not vulnerable to me. Having a tough conversation with a person is vulnerable to me. So I think I started feeling more connected to people through social media, but people reaching out to me saying, oh, I've struggled with that too. And I have a dog that's really challenging. It just made, I think, me more relatable than just a dog trainer sharing about dog training stuff. I just think whole picture is the most transformative thing for owners.
Absolutely. And as I'm hearing that, it's like, you know, it's not even just for dog trainers. Like what you're saying, when I'm hearing it applies to anybody, like in your life, because we're talking about relationships, right? We're talking about, you know, whether that one like, or that one message of, hey, I struggle with that too. That's a relationship. Like that's somebody saying, like, that's, you know, whether it's vulnerable for them to say back to you, hey, you know, I struggle with that too. I've never said that to anybody before. You know what I mean? Like, and not that like you're asking for that, because that much must kind of have a weight to it too, of like, whoa, you know, maybe they're sharing some stuff with me that's, you know, am I qualified for this kind of a thought? But you know, it's beautiful in its relationship. And then it also dovetails into any business, right? Because I feel like, especially as leaders in a business, you think you have to have it all together. You think you have to look a certain way. You think that your team wants you to be perfect and not make any mistakes. And then they'll want to follow me and lead. But really, like what I was drawn to with you, I was like, no, she's literally like talking about all of these personal things and the things she's struggling with and what she's going through and how she doesn't feel perfect. And I remember, I mean, I've watched your stories for years. So again, like even you just being like, I used to not want to make videos because I didn't like how I looked. Like hearing stuff like that. Do you know how many videos I've recorded and then been like, delete that. That's terrible. But I never like talked about it. And I was like, wow, she's doing something like so magical and so special, because
it's relatable.
A lot of us feel it, but not a lot of us are talking about it. And, you know, I feel like in business, people want to follow leaders that are real, not leaders that are right. Do you know what I mean? but we try to put out there that we're right and that we're perfect. I mean, I messed up as a leader for my team who's helping me with this podcast. I messed up today and told you that we were going to record this next month. And we all showed up today and we're like, where's Bethany? And I look at my text. I'm like, you guys, I made a mistake. I'm so sorry. So, I mean, like, I'm learning, like, I have to admit too, like, I make mistakes. And then it was funny because my team that's here helping me, Emily, she was like, that's okay. I screwed up 4 dates this week. And I'm like, you're right. So we're good. Like, let's go, and we had a moment to kind of laugh and bond over it. And so through sharing our mistakes or our hardships,
shortfalls,
we're able to create connection. And as leaders, I don't think a lot of leaders do that.
Well, I think especially with dog trainers, I remember, so we have 4 dogs. One of them, Louie, our German Shepherd, she's still really fearful of people. And I felt kind of, I was very nervous people would see my dog who wasn't perfect and think, oh my gosh, she can't help my dog if her dogs aren't perfect. And then I found it's, I think all of us do.
So we all,
I think, and I found that owners were actually, I think I shared a story about Louie, which I was really nervous about at first, but I was like, you know what, whatever, I'm just going to share it. And when I took her to the vet and the vet brought her out and the vet was like out of breath, Louie had blood on her paw and she was like, you're going to have to put her on meds next time you come here. And I was like, oh my, I hope they don't know I'm a trainer. And I shared it. And it's like, even personal owners I work with who had been through the Born and Trained program or just people online, they were like, thank you so much. It's so nice to know that you don't have perfect dogs. And I was like, oh, duh. Like, I don't know why I thought everything I do has to be perfect or my dogs do, because then it makes an owner feel really crappy. That's why when I was talking to, well, I don't know if she'd want me to say her name. I was talking to a trainer the other day and she was asking about the go home session and like the messy parts. And I told her, this is just what I have learned. I used to think go home sessions had to look perfect because it was a reflection of me and how good of a trainer I am. What I found is that there is beauty in the messy parts because it helps an owner when they get home and there's a messy moment, which there will be, it helps them remember, oh yeah, that happened with Bethany. I know how to work through it. So it's more of like a good thing if a messy moment happens instead of like, oh no, I'm a bad trainer. So 100%. People don't like perfection, even though we strive for it. Like I still struggle with that.
I know.
There's opportunity in the imperfection.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like there's always a lesson out of it.
Absolutely. And we say that in our company. So I've onboarded, our team has grown since I've seen you last. And so I feel like I've just been like onboarding. And a reoccurring message that I kept telling everybody on the team when it came to go homes, I was like, these will not be perfect, but don't panic. We've already let the owner know in 2 separate forms that this will be messy. So also taking that pressure off yourself. So we had reached out, like we mentioned it in the onboarding call, like, hey, the go home sessions, this is kind of what it's going to be like when we're just explaining the whole program before they even sign up. But then our admin, Casey, she also sends out an email a few days before the go home that says, hey, this is what to expect. Your dog is going to look completely untrained for at least, 5 to 30 minutes, depending on the dog. But that's why we tagged you in all those Instagram videos that you see. Like, we've worked with your dog. They're trained. They can do stuff. But I feel like that's where, again, like setting realistic expectations too with your team or with your clients and the dog owners really takes pressure off. And again, I feel like that's what you do really well too, like in sharing these graphics and sharing these basically like what we put in an email, like you're putting out there as far as like the realness of like, this is what you're going to get and it's okay and it's normal. So don't panic. Then you get the feedback. Like when we send out those emails and the client writes back or the owner, walks in the door and sees it, they're like, oh, thank God that you got to see this. And it wasn't just me and he wasn't perfect for you at drop off. And I was like, oh no, ma'am, like not perfect. We've seen a lot, but again, it's just the realness to it that's what people relate to. Just like you said, like they don't relate to perfection, even though we strive for it. Nobody can relate to it because nobody is perfect. So
no,
I mean, that's a big lesson for, I feel like every business, every human, every dog owner, every dog trainer, that it is going to be messy. And I actually say to our trainers too, that if there's a go home session and the dog hasn't messed up, that's when I panic. when they go home and the dog was an angel. We have 2 go home sessions is how we break it up. And if we didn't see like any pushback, I actually tell the owner before they leave, like, hey, listen, you have a 1-hour follow-up session. It's free. Call us when you're ready for it, because since you didn't see any pushback, you're not going to know how to handle it. Therefore, when it happens at home, because it will, you might really not know how to navigate that water, and call us and we'll come over and we'll work you through it. So it's rare. It's very, very rare that you have a dog that can really like put on that face of I'm a perfect A+ student for the whole session. Like usually we get there and we're like, oh, finally, there it is. Because normally it's in the beginning, but some
are more
ride it
patient
out.
than others.
Yeah. And we're like, no, there it is. There's Sophie. There she is. But it's good because again, it's that realness. So, and again, I think that's one of the reasons why I remember when I first stumbled across your page, I was just like, this girl is awesome. Like she's saying everything that I think, but like she said it, but not only did she say it, she made it so pretty. Like I remember like I would bring your Insta before we had ever talked, I'd bring your Instagram over to him and be like, look at this, look how pretty this is. When we onboarded our branding team and our social media team that we have now, they're like, well, give me some examples. I was like, just this one, just look at this page. This is all you need to see.
Oh,
because again,
that could make me cry. That's so nice.
It's so good. And literally they were like, I don't know if we could do that. We could try. It's like, do your own spin, but like, look at how good she is. And I really think it's your authenticity that pours through. Like you're not somebody like on here trying to like relate. You're just sharing like genuine stories, how you feel. Like you said with that one post, you're like, I don't know if this is going to go well, but I'm just going to say it. And that takes so much courage because so many people back down. So many people could even create something and then never post it.
I feel like, I feel like
you're,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no, go ahead.
I was just going to say that like for you, I mean, like your character, you're super conscious, super aware, right? So I think by having those traits, like the way that you can portray what you're trying to get across to people, it just lands really softly. Like when I look at your website, did you go to school for copywriting or anything?
Me?
Yeah.
No, but I love following copywriting people.
Okay. He's like, was she a copywriter? I was like,
good.
Not that I know of.
Because
I was like,
I knew what you did within less than a minute going to your website.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I was like, this is super clear. Oops, hit the table. Super clear, super concise. And I know how you made money within 30 seconds.
Oh, that means a lot because I love the creative side and copywriting. I've been really focusing a lot of my free time on. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
That's really good.
That's funny. I was like, what's copywriting? I was like, she wrote a website. Like, I don't get it. So, but it did take me a minute. I was not up to date.
I think when you were talking about like sharing more about myself, when I first started, I felt like, not that I am a rebel by any means, but growing up almost my entire life, because one, I knew I would be grounded by my mom if I stepped out of line. So I remember very vividly when I went on a trip with her and my dad, my mom wanted me to do something and I was with Bobby, but he wasn't there. So I wasn't living with my parents anymore. And she got upset with me about something. And I was like, oh, you can't ground me anymore. This is very exciting. So, but my entire life, I tried to be the good girl. I would try to say the right things, to always fit in, to never stir the pot. And I felt like once I started sharing some stories about myself or my dogs, and I found that people were resonating with it, it was like, you couldn't stop me from sharing stories and saying things. It felt like permission to be myself. And I just feel like that is the coolest thing that has come from getting a challenging dog and kind of being thrown into figuring something out. It's just given me permission to be myself. And that's why I'm such a huge advocate for sharing about the human side of things, like where it's not just about place command. Those things are really important, but also like the human side, that's more than just dog training. I think we're more than dog trainers. And so I think that's why. So when you say I don't know if you used the word courageous, it probably seems that way when I share stories or things. To me, it's kind of exhilarating because I've spent so much of my life hiding and not being honest and feeling ashamed. And so, it kind of feels like really fun for me.
Relief.
I love that.
Relief.
I love that.
Yes.
Yeah. And I feel like you were made for that, because a lot of people, especially if they had felt that way in the past, don't ever step into that of like, oh, I am free. I can do these things. They stay there. And so they never get to experience what you're feeling. Like when you say like, I feel free and I feel like it's exhilarating, like it feels good. And I'm over here watching it and I'm like, wow, that took a lot of courage, you know? And it's just funny how, you know, different lenses see it different ways. I'm like, wow, like that was hard for her. And you're over here like, that was great. Like, I feel so good. But again, like you kind of had this, you know, moment in your life where you gave yourself permission to be free. You know what I mean? Like once you realized it, fine. But then you had to take it. You had to go, okay, I take that permission. I am going to do that. Yeah. Which is beautiful. Like so many people, unfortunately, will never get there. And I just love that for you. I love that you got there and that you're able to do that.
Take action.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I want to just kind of go back to the whole, you know, creative process and stuff like that. So I had a question. I was like, I think you had asked me it too. And I was like, I don't know. I'm going to write that down. Do you have like a morning routine or just like a creative routine, or is it just kind of you wing it?
No, 100% creative routine. I am not routine oriented or I guess this is going to make me sound like I am very rebellious, but I rebel against schedules.
Yeah.
Like if you told me I have to do X, Y, and Z, I'm going to be like, no, I don't want to do it now. But my creative process, my mornings are very special to me. So like when I have a training dog, I create my morning around place duration, or I have our van. So I'll take a dog in the van and do like a session or a walk. And then it's calm time while I do something creative. I feel very off if I don't create some sort of graphic or work on something creative other than like working on a guide or the magazine thing or something like that. I feel off. So now it's a part of every single day as much as I can. It lasts about 2 to 3 hours. And I'm also most productive in the morning. So afternoons, I'm not very productive. So that's part of my schedule. Yeah.
I'm the same way.
I love it. I feel like we are exactly the same, because he's probably hearing exactly the same thing that I'm hearing. So I recently found out that I'm creative in the morning. I always knew I was a morning person. I used to work at a bagel shop. So like, and I would be like, good morning at like 5 a.m. So, and they would all be like, no, coffee. I'm like, okay. So I always knew I was a morning person, but especially since like having kids and stuff like that, like mornings can be chaos, you know, because it's just like, do all the things, get them out of the house, get your hair brushed. Did we remember to pack a snack? So I realized that ever since Shay is 6, our daughter is 6. So for the last 6 years, I really haven't been able to use that morning time. And I think when we came to the seminar, I was talking about like, I miss being creative. I miss doing things. And I guess because prior to having children, I was doing more stuff in the morning hours, and the last 6 years, not so much. Well, doing different things in the morning hours. So what I recently realized, which is my creative process, is I'm in the process of writing a book that is kind of a combination between finding my faith and dog training principles. Like it's all kind of connected and together. And just like really like kind of like tying it back to like biblical principle, but like structure, consistency, like obedience, like all of these things are biblical principles. So when I talk about them in dog training now, I can't help but hear them and see them when I'm reading the Bible. So I was like, I could write a book on this. And then I was like, oh yeah, who has time to write a book though? So like, good idea, Stacy, but how? And then just one day it was put on me that I have to start waking up at 3:30 a.m. I have to get up extremely early when everybody in the house is still sleeping. And I thought it would take an hour. It's like you were saying, more like 2 to 3 hours. And what I do is I'll sit down, I'll read my Bible, then I will pray, and then I will write. And when I don't get to write, like the mornings where I was like, okay, I could sleep in today, and I kind of like talked myself out of it, or we did have a change of schedule and like I didn't have the time to get it in, I feel out of sorts the whole day. The whole day I'm just like a little anxious. I'm like, okay, let's get to bed so I can wake up and do this right tomorrow. Like I made a mistake. So it's kind of like I can't really shake it. I get through the day, but I can't really shake it. And then the next day when I'm back in it, I'm like, it's almost just like that relief of like, okay, we're back, we're good, we're doing it. And I've been doing it for a while now. So I like different creative processes, but also very, very similar to what you're doing.
Oh, okay. First of all, that is so exciting that you're writing a book. That's huge.
Yeah.
Oh
I'm
my
excited.
Gosh.
Never wrote a book before. So,
well, I mean, I think most people who write their first book has never written before. So
I agree.
You're doing it. I think that's the big thing. Because I have a dream one day of writing a book and it seems very overwhelming.
Yeah.
The hardest part is doing it, and you're doing it.
Set a time every day and just write. Like I was like, if I could write like a paragraph a day. And now it's more like it's looking like a page a day is kind of what it's averaging out to. But same for you. Just set a time and just start to do it.
Yeah, it's all about chipping away at it and actually sitting down and like creating that space to do it. Because talking about things, so many people are just going to talk about writing a book. You are actually writing the book.
Yes.
It's so awesome. I'm so happy for you. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, while we're talking about a book, it's kind of a similar topic. I do want to talk about some of the things that you offer because, again, you inspired me to make my own version of an ebook, which is our owner dog training book, which we've had for a while. But I wouldn't consider that a book. It's just very much like a how-to step-by-step guide for me. Like that's different than the book that I'm writing. But I want to talk about everything that you offer and that you've created because I feel like it's a lot now. I feel like you have like a good arsenal of things. And then if you're willing to, I would love to talk maybe about the magazine if you have anything that you want to share because I know that is something new. But first, let's talk about all of your ebooks, all of your online things that you offer.
Yeah. So I first started with my go home guide. This is why I love that you have your own. And I remember it's so weird, like when you think about time does go by very fast. But at the time, I really wanted to see other people's go home guides, and trainers were very stingy about it. They didn't want to share with anyone. And I ended up getting one from someone else who shadowed a trainer, and it felt
you got
very,
like a black market copy,
like a bootleg.
Yeah.
And I was like, at first I was very excited, but
you are rebellious. You are.
I am. I think that's the theme. It was all writing, and I felt like, oh man, like there's something. I feel like I could do this differently, and that's really when I kind of dipped my toes in with creating a training guide, and then I made it available. I couldn't believe people wanted to get it, and then a couple of years later, during the pandemic, I was doing more virtuals because everyone was at home. I was getting the same questions over and over about e-collar work. I was saying the same things over and over. And so I just committed to creating my first real guide, the e-collar starter guide. And then after that, the reactive dog handbook. And then our most recent one, the guide to separation anxiety. Just is to have something. I just always wanted to have something that if someone's struggling with an issue, I can say, here, like, here's this thing. You might not be able to do a board and train, and you might live further away. Here's this thing with everything I want to tell you about this topic and how it can help you, and you can get it. So, and it's also just become a really a cool thing that I feel super proud of. Before dog training, I think I was much more flaky about things. I wouldn't finish things. I would have these big ideas and then never do it. And the e-collar starter guide was really the first thing where I was like, oh my gosh, I can do this. I can say something and then actually make it happen. And the guides have just, that's my primary source of income. So it's moved more virtual than board and trains.
I love that. Just that right there. Like I told him that and he was like, what? And just that right there, like that's so different than all the dog trainers that are doing what we're doing. Like, I feel like that just like really, really makes you stand out. Like, I feel like a lot of us do have these like guides and stuff, but like the fact that, and not as many and to the caliber of what you created, because the fact that that's your primary income in the business, like that blows my mind. And I'm so happy for you because I'm like, that's amazing. Like that's hard work, but that's amazing. And I'm just, again, that is another thing that is just so different than a lot of the other dog trainers that we're going to have on the podcast this season. Like most of us work and make a living off of the actual training dogs. You are like, I will do the training. I'm good at the training, but I actually prefer doing this. And you didn't just say that. Like you said, you turned that into reality. You said, well, okay, since I like this better, this is going to be my main market. This is my main niche. And I'll do the dog training too on the side. And I love that. Like who's like, I'm a dog trainer, but really I'm a graphic designer. Like I'm an artist is actually what I am. And I happen to train some dogs. Like I love that. That's so
You're
amazing.
definitely working in your genius.
I'm gonna put that.
That's the,
And then he's going to hire you.
yeah. Hopefully you're for hire.
I'm always for hire, by the way. Yeah.
That's right. Good answer. But
no,
okay.
well, I think I had a major, and I think this is why it's so important, because it's one thing to create a guide. It's another thing to actually be able to sell it. I had a big motivator. I had a husband who was really stressed out at his job. I mean, he had a couple of panic attacks. I hope he doesn't mind me saying, but, I wanted so desperately to kind of flip the script. I've always been taken care of, and he has always taken care of me, and my dreams are his dreams, and he's kind of let me fly whenever, like becoming a dog walker instead of going to nursing school, which would be much more practical. And I just was like, I really want to create this guide, and I think that I can make money from it. I had no idea how much I would make, but ended up making enough where he could quit his job. And so for me, I also had a big motivator. So I think that's so important. Like for any trainers who are creating things, it's not just the product. It's also being willing to put yourself out there and kind of squash the voice that says you're being too salesy. I've learned you can't say things enough. You think you're annoying people, you're really not. So you have to feel, there has to be a fire inside of you for your product and feeling proud of yourself for what you want to share.
Absolutely.
That why is really important.
Yeah.
Or else
So important.
You get burnt out.
Yep.
Yes.
And I feel like you get lost. I feel like when you don't have a clear why, you just start saying yes to random things and going down rabbit holes, and then you're burnt out because you're like, how do I even get over here? I wanted to be over there, but now way over here. How do I get back? I can't even get back there. It's so far gone. Yeah, like how do we even do that? So I think that's amazing. But I do want to hear about this magazine because I don't even know a lot about it, but I've just been following what you've been sharing, and I'm like, I need to get my hands on this magazine if and when it comes out. Like I'm like, if there's a pre-order list, I want to be on it. Just kind of tell me anything that you can share. I totally understand if you can't share everything yet. And like, how did you have this idea come up?
So I've always had this feeling that I think I'm meant to connect people. I don't love being the center of attention, even though I am walking dog training. But like doing the seminar with Kate is huge. It's a big time out of my comfort zone. I don't like being the one in front of everyone. But I love connecting people. Like knowing that you're still talking with some trainers from the trainer in you, like that can make me cry. I just feel like that's one of the biggest things from that seminar that's so special.
Yeah.
So I was thinking about, I felt like I was kind of flailing around without having a creative project to work on. And I didn't want to do another training guide. And I've been really inspired by this one magazine that I read called Feel Free.
Okay.
And it's very artsy, like gardening stuff, interior design, beautiful pictures, a lot of black and white stuff, which is I've been very inspired by lately. And I started thinking like, what if I just did like a magazine and told other people's stories? So it's not really about me. There will be like some stories from me, but it's more a magazine for owners and trainers. But I think I can't reassure owners enough with stories. I can't, because it's so like, you know, like the sides, so black and white out there with like training. Yeah. Where some people are so against e-collars and prong collars, and that's fine. They can do their thing, but owners get really upset about that. And so I feel like for me with this magazine, I reached out to other trainers. I reached out to some owners that I follow that I know, some people I follow online. I asked other people who they'd want to see in the magazine, reached out to them. So it's really telling stories from other people in the community to encourage owners who use tools like the e-collar and prong collar.
I love it.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. And that's not really like
so
what
excited.
I had pictured. I was thinking, again, it was going to be kind of like the e-books, but more like glossy paper and in a magazine form kind of a thing. So I didn't realize it's a lot of stories.
That's genius.
Which is
Yeah,
amazing.
and pictures, because
Yeah.
again,
Yes.
Stacey, you need to send me pictures.
Yeah.
That's your assignment after this. Go take pictures and then send them to me. But that's something, when I reached out to a couple of people, and one of the trainers, she, because I asked on Instagram who would like to be in the Walking Dog magazine. And she was someone who messaged me. I had never met her. And she sent me some pictures, because that's kind of a big focus for me in the magazine, is that beautiful pictures of owners and their dogs. And I don't know, it feels very like magazine kind of. And she sent me these pictures, and turns out her husband is a photographer. I was like, I swoon. I could cry looking at pictures that are really pretty. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I want it to be. I want it to be really cool pictures with stories. And I'm launching it. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Are you going to share like the stories from the owners and their training like journey?
Oh yeah. So it's some owners that are in it right now. Like there's a post board and train owner story, someone I've personally worked with. There's stories of how the tools have helped an owner and their dog. Like there's one owner talking about how she was really nervous to share that she used the e-collar. So she really had to keep a lot of things hidden. She was in the agility world, and what kind of flipped that for her, and very community based. And some other owners, just like their personal story. So it's like a very, like I got Theo and he's my story, where someone else, they were recommended that they put their dog down. And so, stories that I am hoping will really help an owner and trainers. I think it's going to be really great for trainers too, just to feel encouraged and like,
relatable.
Oh, I'm so excited to be a part of this community where, we're relatable. It's not just all perfect, everything,
Yep.
I love it. Yeah. It goes back to what we were talking about at the beginning. Just sharing the realness of stuff, and people want people that are real, not people that are just always perfect and right. So that's amazing.
Yeah.
When does it launch? Where can we get it? Because again,
this
if
makes
I can sign
me sweat,
up now, I will.
We're giving you
September,
a deadline.
Well, I gave myself a deadline because I'm sure you know with the book,
you have to.
Mm-hmm. No one else is telling me, get this magazine out. So my birthday, September 6th, I felt it'd be a good day to launch it. Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh. It's literally like 2 weeks away. I'm
excited. I can't wait because it's so soon, which means I get it soon. Is it going to be just available on your website? Where can we get
launch it kind of just like we do our training guides. So it'll be available on our website, and it's going to be virtual. I've gone down the printed route with some training books, and I just feel like it's a little easier on my part to just do virtual.
Yeah. And who knows, maybe one day it will be, in every grocery store and Target and every Starbucks and everywhere, because it will be printed on the glossy paper. It will.
Okay.
Again,
I'm going to write that down after this.
With
Stacey
your
said.
skills. Yes, I can tell the future. But again, with your skills and with just how amazing you are, it can't fail. It won't fail. There's no way, because it's just,
thank you.
I'm so excited for it. I'm going to buy 12 copies and just be like sending them to everybody. So, but I'm really excited for that and for you and just for everything you're continuing to do. And just please never stop sharing and connecting us all. And I just feel like, again, even outside of just meeting people at the seminar and then staying in touch with them, I feel like I've met people like over your page, and when people like things, you're like, oh, it's a dog training company, you click on it and then you follow each other, and then you're like, hey, you're not that far, and it's just, social media can have its negatives and its downsides for sure. People can be cruel and inappropriate, but I think it does have a lot of really good too. And I think you kind of, to an extent, can create, like, as far as what you follow, like you can create really positive things and really good things and things that make you feel good when you log in. You can't control quite kind of like the responses that we get. We can just block those. But, I could continue talking for hours with you. So we'll probably have to do another podcast because I have like 50 extra topics on my phone. Yeah, part 2. Because I have like so many more questions on my phone. Like literally I can scroll. I was like, I have so many questions. But we want to end with just a fun little game. It's short and it's no pressure. It's just kind of cute. I don't know if he has any, so I'm going to go through mine first. So think of a couple that you might want to ask. It's just called This or That. And it's just, we want to know, like, what's Bethany's this or that? And I just wrote down, they're super random. They will always be random.
Okay.
So my first one, German Shepherd or a Doodle?
German Shepherd.
Figured. French fries or mashed potatoes?
French fries.
My girl. Okay. We're friends so far. Books or podcasts?
Oh. Podcasts.
Same, currently. Morning or night?
Morning.
Me too. We're besties.
Oh, we are
We're
besties.
sisters.
Yes.
Rom-com or thriller?
Oh, rom-com.
Mm-hmm.
I do love thrillers, but Bobby refuses to watch them. I love dramas.
stressful.
Is that a thriller? It is stressful.
Yeah. He's like, I can't deal with any more stress. I'm like, okay,
No.
something funny. And then my last one, which is personal to you, unless you're a Bethany follower, you probably won't understand. But single bent paw magic or double bent paw magic?
Double.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my gosh.
And to understand what we're talking about, you have to go to her Instagram and follow her to see. Do you have any this or that you can think of?
I think you covered them.
I covered them. Okay. Where can everybody find you to follow you?
On Instagram is where I'm the most active at walking dog training.
Perfect.
Awesome.
Amazing. So thank you so much, Bethany. So like I
Thank
said, we
you.
will probably have to do a part 2 because I have so many more questions I would love to.
I would love that. I could talk to you for hours.
And now
Yeah.
that we know how to sign in and do this, I mean, we
Easy.
could just do this every week because we're sisters, you know?
If you want me to come on be a third co-host, I'm happy to. Just let me know.
Perfect.
Do it.
Perfect.
Nothing is an honor.
Yes, it was. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Love talking to
Thank
you,
you so
and we'll be in touch. We'll talk soon.
Yes, please. All right.
Bye.
Bye.